You have the same superpower as a dog. You can smell disease. You can smell death. You just don't know it yet. You walk into a room and something feels off. You can't explain it. There's no visible threat. Nothing looks wrong, but something in your body pulls tight and you want to leave. You call it intuition, a gut feeling, a vibe. But it's not any of those things. It's your nose. And for most of human history, it might have been the difference between life and death. Here's what modern science is only beginning to confirm. You can smell fear. You can smell sickness. You can smell death before it happens. And your ancestors didn't just sense these things vaguely. They read them like a language, a precise biological alarm system that kept our species alive for 300,000 years. We didn't lose that system. We just stopped listening to it. And the consequences are stranger than you'd expect. Let's start with fear, because this one has the strongest scientific evidence. In 2009, researchers at Stony Brook University ran an experiment. They collected sweat samples from first-time skydivers, people about to jump out of a plane for the first time, and compared them to sweat from the same people during normal exercise. Same bodies, same temperature, completely different chemical signature. Then, they had a separate group of volunteers smell both samples inside a brain scanner. The fear sweat activated entirely different regions of the brain than the exercise sweat. Specifically, it lit up the amygdala, the part of your brain responsible for threat detection, and areas linked to empathy and social processing. The volunteers didn't know what they were smelling. They couldn't identify it consciously, but their brains responded to it as a threat signal anyway. Your body already knows. Your conscious mind is just the last to find out. And it gets even more specific. In 2012, a study from the Netherlands found that humans can chemically distinguish between the sweat of someone who is afraid and the sweat of someone who is disgusted. Different emotions, different chemical compounds, different neurological responses. Fear sweat made people more alert, more vigilant, with wider visual attention. Disgust sweat made people more analytical and more careful. The emotion was transmitted between bodies without a single word being spoken. This isn't metaphor. This is chemistry. Your body is constantly broadcasting your internal state to everyone around you and receiving theirs, whether you're aware of it or not. But fear is just the beginning, because ancient humans could smell something even more important. They could smell disease. In 2014, researchers in Sweden injected volunteers with either a harmless saline solution or a compound that temporarily activated the immune system, essentially making the body think it was getting sick. A few hours later, they photographed the volunteers and collected their sweat. Independent observers, shown only the photographs, consistently rated the immune-activated people as looking less healthy. But here's the part that matters. When a different group smelled the sweat samples, they consistently rated the immune-activated sweat as more unpleasant, without knowing anything about the study. Their noses knew someone was sick, before symptoms appeared, before the person even felt ill. Think about what that meant for our ancestors. In a small group of 30 people, one infected individual could wipe out everyone. There were no hospitals, no antibiotics, no quarantine. Your only defense was early detection, and your nose was the detector. Researchers believe this is why we instinctively find certain smells revolting: rot, decay, infected wounds, certain bodily secretions. These aren't just unpleasant. They're ancient alarm signals, wired into your brain to keep you away from danger before your conscious mind has time to think. Your nose was running disease surveillance on everyone you met, and it was doing it automatically, below the threshold of conscious awareness. Now here's where it gets stranger, because it wasn't just disease. There's growing evidence that humans can detect chemical changes associated with the dying process. For decades, nurses and doctors have reported that some patients develop a distinctive smell in the hours or days before death. It's often described as sweet, slightly metallic, faintly chemical. Animals appear especially sensitive to these changes. Dogs in hospice settings have sometimes been observed staying close to patients shortly before death. Researchers have identified volatile organic compounds that change as organ systems begin to fail. While scientists are still studying exactly how detectable these changes are to humans, The evidence suggests the body's chemistry shifts in measurable ways. Ancient humans lived alongside death every day: childbirth, hunting injuries, predator attacks, disease. The ability to notice these chemical changes could have offered a real survival advantage. We still have the receptors. The hardware is intact. What's missing is the practice, the attention, and the cultural framework that once made smell a primary sense instead of background noise. So what happened? The answer isn't one thing. It's thousands of years of gradual change. It started with fire. Cooking food destroyed many of the raw chemical signals that helped identify spoilage. You no longer had to rely entirely on smell to judge whether food was safe. Then came agriculture and permanent settlements. For the first time, people lived surrounded by their own waste. The smells of decay and disease became constant background noise. A system designed to detect rare threats was suddenly flooded with them. Then came perfume, soap, deodorant. We didn't just cover natural smells. We trained ourselves to think they were something to hide. And finally, language. As humans developed increasingly sophisticated ways to communicate, we relied more on our eyes and ears, medicine, law enforcement, food inspection. We built entire institutions to do the jobs our senses once handled automatically. We didn't lose the ability. We buried it beneath 10,000 years of civilization. But here's what's unsettling. The system is still running. You still produce fear compounds. You still release immune markers when you're sick. You still emit chemical signals linked to stress, grief, attraction, and danger. And the people around you are still responding to them, even if neither of you realizes it. Every time you walk into a room and something feels wrong, your nose has already analyzed it. Every time you instantly trust or distrust someone you've just met, part of that first impression may be chemical. Every time you feel unexpectedly calm around one person and strangely unsettled around another, ancient biology may already be influencing your judgment. The alarm system is still on. We just stopped looking at the screen. And the strangest part? Other animals never stopped. Dogs can detect certain cancers through smell. Rats have been trained to identify tuberculosis. Bears can smell food from remarkable distances. Elephants can detect water sources that humans cannot. The natural world is saturated with chemical information: threat, safety, health, decay. We evolved in that world. We were once fluent in that language. Somewhere along the way, we decided we'd outgrown it. We built a civilization so loud, so bright, and so chemically sanitized that one of the oldest alarm systems in our biology faded into the background. Now we call it a vibe, and we tell ourselves we're imagining it. Your nose is not broken. It never was. It's been trying to tell you something for your entire life. You just forgot how to listen.